this, and I am going to close off the video, and I'm going to share my screen. Let me get going with this stuff first. There we go. Okay. So you guys should now be seeing my desktop, correct?
Yep.
All right. And I'm going to see if I can adjust this a little bit. Nope, I guess I can't. So you're going to see everything. My desktop is a little messy, so try to ignore that. Okay, so what do you Anita, Kelly, Trina, what do you think? You guys, are you okay with me doing a one-night thing on Mondays? Is that okay? Any problems with that? Yeah, one night, Monday night from 5 to 7. Is that cool? That's what my initial thought was. Good for you? And then, as I say in my announcements, I already have 3 announcements in there for you. One of them has videos that you're supposed to take a look at. That's the other part of the training, is for you to go and take a look at these videos. As we go along, I'm also going to try to get some additional links for you that will help you to learn a little bit about Adobe Illustrator and vector art, which a lot of this has to do with vector art. What is vector art? We're going to talk about that over the course of the next 4 weeks, because Adobe Illustrator is primarily vector art, and what we have to do is start beginning to understand Illustrator. To understand Illustrator, we also need to understand vector art. So these are the kind of large-scale things that we're going to be focusing on. And again, as I say, most of you probably don't have a great deal of experience with Illustrator, and since you don't, you probably don't have a great deal of understanding of what vector art really is. Is that a fair estimate to say to you people? Is that fair for me to say that? Not too familiar with vector art? Anybody?
I'm not.
Okay. All right. Well, again, that's what we're here for. So, all right. So anyway, the first thing that I want to do is I want to open up my PowerPoint. Let's see if this is the right one. No, this is not the right one. Hold on. Let me get the other one. I think the other one is what I want right here. And no, that's not it. That was the right one. Oops, sorry about that. Yeah. Don't say it. Okay. I think this is the right one. It's just I'm not in the right slide. Yeah, that's what it is. All right. So let me start off by coming into my slideshow, and let me start playing from beginning. Everybody seeing this okay?
Yep.
Cool. Okay. So I'm going to, let me do this. Move I got a screen here, and on my screen I have your chat and I have the participants. So I'm moving that over so I can see my screen. So welcome to Illustrator. This course focuses on the vector application Illustrator used to produce detailed and scalable art for print and the web. So essentially, this art produces vector art. What makes, and we'll talk more about this as we go from slide to slide to slide, what makes vector art exciting and useful is it has the ability to be scalable. Meaning essentially that you can make art in vector form, and you can make it as big as you want or as small as you want. You really can't do that with bitmaps. Bitmaps are the type of art that you create and what you use Adobe Photoshop for. And I know you all have heard of Photoshop, and probably some of you have worked with Photoshop. Is that correct?
Yes.
So again, there is resolution dependence, which means it's not scalable. And then there's what's known as resolution independence, which means it's scalable. When we talk about Adobe Illustrator, we talk about artwork that is scalable. We'll talk more about this. And it is resolution independent. So some of the terms that'll come up as you go ahead as a graphic designer, these are things that you'll hear. You'll hear people talk about resolution dependence. You'll talk about scalability. So you have to know that when something is resolution dependent, it does not have the ability to scale. If something is resolution independent, then it can scale. And we'll talk about resolution a little more as we proceed. Let me get to my next part of the slide. The course projects cover the use of the selection tools, the drawing tools, layers, the pen tool, transformations and distortions, type tools, and modifying paths and shapes. All of these individual elements, and again, this is not everything that's in Adobe Illustrator. This is the package that we're going to be looking at in this course. All of these elements are typical of what you can do with Adobe Illustrator. You will become aware of all these things, and as you practice with the program, you will find that you will become more efficient in creating your ideas, because you'll know that these different elements, these different objects, these different tools exist, and it will enable you to make more successful art. So the course objective: upon successful completion of the course, you will be able to identify and apply many of the panels, tools in this program. So what we're going to try to do is get you familiar with some of the panels and some of the tools. There are many tools in here, and there are many panels, more than we have the ability to cover in the 4 weeks that we're together. But that's okay, because I have to tell you something. I've been working with this program now for nearly 11 years. And I don't know every single thing that's in here, because I don't really use every single thing that's in here. You'll find that as a graphic designer, you will be using certain tools and certain panels and certain things to do the work that you do. And it kind of depends on where you kind of go as a graphic designer. And there are many different ways that you could go as a graphic designer. You'll be able to differentiate between vector and raster graphics. That's something that I really want to try to focus on in this course. It's very important for you to understand that there is a difference between vector graphics and raster graphics. At some point or other, all of you will have conversations with other graphic designers, perhaps not in this class. And you have to know what a vector piece of art is, what identifies it, what makes it special. And you have to know what a raster graphic is, and how to identify it and make it special. So these are the things that we're going to be covering. Demonstrate proficiency with the pen tool. You're going to find that the pen tool is a little bit tricky, but once you get the hang of the pen tool, you are going to be able to create insane things. So I really just want to focus on you, with you on how important it is to know. Oh boy, there goes my phone. I want you to understand how important it is to have some proficiency with the pen tool. You probably will not be incredibly proficient with it in the 4 weeks time that we're here. Again, I don't know any of you yet, and I see each one of you are new people to me. So I can't say I know much about any of you, other than that you're here and I'm happy. But the point I'm trying to make is that each one of you will have your own set of problems as far as getting proficient with the pen tool. Just so, oh geez, evidently somebody really wants to talk to me. Oh, it's Ken DeMarco, my friend. Okay, let me just, Ken, hello? Ken, listen, I can't talk to you. I'm in a course. I'll call you later. Okay. Sorry, gang. So anyway, to get back to what I was saying, each one of you are going to have to become proficient with the pen tool. This week we have exercises which will be working with the pen tool. I am going to demonstrate that to you later on this evening, and you're going to see how I work with it, and you'll have the opportunity to ask me questions, and I'll try to answer those questions. I also want you to be aware that I try to make myself available as much as possible. So if you have questions, feel free to give me a call. I will try to answer the phone at the time that you call me. I cannot guarantee at every time that I will be able to answer. You just saw my phone ring and another friend of mine called me and I couldn't answer him. So it's possible that you could call me at a time where I'm talking to someone else and I can't talk to you. One way or the other, though, I will either get back to you or I'll talk to you. You can also send me an email, okay? You're going to learn about how to apply various color preparations for different outputs. Now, there are different types of outputs. A little bit before in one of my other slides, I think we talked about different color outputs. And if not, what we're talking about is CMYK and RGB. So we'll talk a little bit about that through the course as well. You're going to compose illustrations using multi-tools. So you're going to have the opportunity to start working through the way that you create illustrations. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to kind of trace off a robot. And that's a really good example in a very simple, basic way of how you compose an illustration using multiple tools. We will probably do that next week, and I will demonstrate how you're going to approach that, okay? Create basic layouts using vector programs. Adobe Illustrator is one of many vector programs. Adobe InDesign is another. Adobe InDesign is primarily a vector program that you do layouts in entirely, whereas Adobe Illustrator is kind of an art-producing program. But you do have the ability in Adobe Illustrator to create a basic layout. So we will be talking about that as well. You'll see how to go about converting a raster graphic into a vector, which is something I think you'll find extremely important. We use it all the time in other courses. I do a packaging course, which I think at some time or other in the near future, you will be getting. I don't know whether you'll actually have me as your instructor or not, because I'm not the only instructor. But I use my vector conversions in that program to convert some illustrations into symbols for a combination mark, which is a form of a logo design. Okay? Everybody okay with me so far? Am I saying things that are losing you, or are you following me all right? Everybody comfortable? Good? Okay, great. Good to hear it. Create and manipulate text using the typographic tools and effects. There is an entire area of design in manipulation of text using typographic tools and effects. It really is amazing what you can do. We don't really have enough time in this course to explore it to its fullest extent, but I do want to mention to you how important it is to understand that, okay? So we will be talking about that. Compose various layouts applying the basic principles and elements of design. What are vector graphics? I'll get into this a little bit more, but vector graphics essentially use geometric primitives such as points, lines, curves, and basic shapes based on mathematical equations to represent images in computer graphics. So essentially what we're doing is we're using either anchor points and line segments to create shapes, or we're taking basic tools and we're creating images which we can then modify into more complex images using all sorts of interesting tools in this program. Like I say, I find this program to be fascinating and fun. And when I'm a graphic designer working on any kind of a project at all, the best part of the project for me almost all the time is working in Illustrator, because it really gives me the opportunity to use my imagination and my skills and have some fun. And I tell you, most of the time I'm always amazed at some of the stuff that comes as a result of it. So also called paths. They connect through locations called control points. You're going to see these as we demonstrate later on through the exercises. Each of these control points have a position in the X and Y axis of the page. So since we're on a computer, the computer thinks in terms of X, Y, and Z axes. The most important ones for us in Adobe Illustrator at this time are the X and the Y axes. Adobe Illustrator does have a three-dimensional program section, which I use in my packaging. And if you get me in packaging, you'll see me using it in the packaging. It's incredible, and you'll really love it once we get there. And by the time we get there, you should have a pretty good idea of what a vector is and what this program's all about. So you should be ready to go with that when you reach that point. Computer displays are made up of grids or small rectangular cells called pixels. The term comes from picture elements. The image is built from these cells. So basically, yes, did you want to say something? No? Even an image, even a vector image, is made from these picture elements, these pixels. The major difference is, though, that the picture elements are converted. The Adobe Illustrator file ultimately converts them into a bitmap form when you export the file. So what's really happening is you're creating a vector piece of graphic, which at some point you're going to convert to another file and export it, and then you're going to use it in another application. Like, for instance, you'll use it on the web as part of a web graphic, or you'll use it in a print environment where you're creating a piece of art that's going to go into a print project. Generally, you do not use a native Adobe Illustrator file, the .a file. That's the file that you create when you're working on your graphic. What you do is you convert that to something else, like a TIFF file or an EPS file, which means encapsulated PostScript. We'll get into all this, but that's basically what's happening here. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about raster graphics and bitmaps. So you can see can you see my little pointer here? When I'm moving it around, see my pointer? Good. So raster graphics are formed using pixels, where each pixel has a specified value in color. They are also called bitmap graphics. Now, take a look at this bottle. Here's a little ice cream graphic, a ice cream soda bottle graphic, right? And if you take a look down here, I want you to see this image. You see how this image is made up of little pixels? That is a bitmap. You're looking at what a bitmap looks like. So if I was working on this particular piece of art in Adobe Photoshop, you would be seeing something like this in a Photoshop area. Oh, and by the way, see that little circle there? That little circle represents what is being blown up so that you could see. So as you can see in a bitmap, the greater that you enlarge something, the more the image tends to break down. If you take a look up here, this is a vector. Can you see that same little section there? Can you see how nice and sharp that is? This is a 7-time magnification, so it's brought up 700%. That right there shows you what a vector piece of art looks like. So I think by taking a look at these two, you can see the benefits of working as much as possible with a vector piece of art as opposed to a bitmap. You get a much cleaner, much more realistic looking piece of art from a vector than you do from a bitmap. This type, raster graphics, so raster graphics is this is the bitmap or the raster graphic, okay? Just so that you know. Raster graphics, they're resolution dependent and become blurred as you zoom up in size. So go back to what this is saying. This is a 7 times magnification. There's your image being brought up 7 times. That's what it's going to look like if you're looking at a raster graphic, a bitmap, okay? You don't have that with vectors. Vector graphics, on the other hand, are based on mathematical and geometrical equations. This type of graphic is resolution independent, and it will retain its quality even after zooming up or down. So that's the big thing for you to understand about vector graphics and raster graphics. Raster graphics are bitmaps, and they are resolution dependent. Vectors are resolution independent. It means they can be made as large or as small as you want and nothing changes on them. Whereas if you work with a bitmap, you are limited in the amount that you can make it bigger. Generally speaking, you do not want to make a bitmap greater than 17% larger than its current size. You just don't want to do that, okay? Adobe Illustrator is predominantly a vector art producing program. Vector artwork is perfect for logos, illustration, and type treatments. This is being recorded, so you can go back in later. And as a matter of fact, just so that you all know, in the announcements, I have an announcement, and in that announcement there is a zipped file, and in the zip file is basically the text that I used for this presentation. So you could literally go and you can get that text and you can literally print it out and put it on your desk if you want, or you can keep it. I believe it's a doc file. So you can keep it on your computer and you can use it as much as you want. What I try to do is, as we go through the course, I try to insert for you in at least either in a doc sharing environment or as part of an announcement. I put whatever information I can give to you to help support what it is that you're doing. Okay, so everybody gets this, everybody knows this, right? So it's important for you all to know that you need to be checking announcements. You need to check them, you need to find out what's there, and you need to get your hands on them. I will mention them in class as much as I can think of mentioning them in class, but you still need to go in and check all that, okay? Okay, resolution. We're talking about resolution in the other slide. Let's talk a little bit more about it. The smaller and closer the pixel elements are, the higher the resolution. So if you think about it, if you have a 1 inch by 1 inch square of a picture, and if you have a resolution, I don't know what you know about resolution, but there are essentially three basic types of resolution. There's a resolution for a web. There's resolution for a digital printer. Do you guys know what a digital printer is? Anybody? No? Digital printer would essentially be, any of you guys have a staple by you? Staples? Or Kinko's? You got Kinko's, Staples? If you go to Kinko's, you go to Staples, and you give them a piece of art, and you tell them to print 100 pieces of that piece of art, you're using a digital printer. They're basically going to a high-speed color laser copier or color copier, 4-color process, RGB, whatever they got. That's essentially what that is. The third is a high-end 4-color process printing environment. So the three different types of printing that we're just talking about printing here generally. The three different types of printing environments that we have are, as I say, the web, a digital printing environment, and a high-end 4-color process environment. So let me tell you, when we talk about resolution, if we're talking about resolution in the web or on the web, generally the resolution is 72 pixels per inch. So that means essentially that on the X and Y axes, there will be 72 pixels by 72 pixels. That's the resolution for the web. Okay, that's easy enough to figure out. Now you take that same 1 inch by 1 inch piece of art, and you're going to now change the resolution so that it can be used in a digital printer. We're talking about approximately 150 by 150 pixels per inch on the XY axis. So that would be the resolution. So it's like double approximately, right? And then if you're talking about a high-end output 4-color process printing environment, we're talking about 300 by 300 pixels per inch on that same 1 inch piece of art. So what you're doing essentially is you're using the least number of pixel elements for resolution when you're on the web. You don't need as many. When you go into a laser printer, color printer, 4-color process, or 4-color printer, digital printer, it's 150. And then you go into a 4-color process environment, 300. Okay? So that's essentially the short of resolution. what I'm telling you, it will come up again and again and again in other classes. I'm giving you the information right now. I'm beginning the process of giving you the information right now. As you move through your other courses, there will be other instructors that will give you more information about this, and it will become clearer and clearer. But at least since we're talking about vectors, you should know a little bit about vectors, and you also should know a little bit about rasters or bitmaps. And by the way, just so that you know, rasters and bitmaps mean the same thing. So if somebody says to you, work with a bitmap, it's a raster. And if somebody says a vector, that's what you're going to call it, a vector, or a line art, okay? Monitors and printers, excuse me, monitors and printers are raster devices. Now listen to this. This is very important. That means, thank you, Kelly. That means vector art, listen to this very carefully and think about it, especially off of what I just said. Monitors and printers are raster devices. That means vector art first must be converted into a raster format. You're going to convert a vector into a bitmap before you can print it or display it. So in other words, what that means is the vector file is not the end result for you. It is the beginning. And what makes it important is it gives you the ability to take the same piece of art, that vector piece of art, and you can go back and you can make that same piece of art. When I say make it, you're not actually making it over. What you're doing is you're resizing it. You have the ability to make it as big as you want or as small as you want, as many times as you want, just as long as you keep the original .ai file, the original vector file. So does that make sense, what I'm telling you? Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, my wife's phone was going off.
Okay. That's it? I thought you were going to ask a question.
No.
Okay. The size of the bitmap file created through the conversion will depend on the resolution required by the final output method. But the size of the unconverted vector file producing the bitmaps and raster file will always remain the same. Here's the thing that this is saying. Essentially, depending upon what is the output, and the output, as I just said to you a few moments ago, the output could either be for the web, for a digital printer, or for 4-color process printing. Depending upon which method, you're going to use a different resolution. Now, here's what I want you to understand. As you go from a file, say a web file, 72 pixels per inch, the size of that image is going to be one size. When you go from that size to, say, 150 pixels per inch, which is the size of the file that you're going to use to print on a color laser copier, the size is going to increase. It's going to be a bigger file. It's going to take more processing energy to create that file. When you go to a 4-color process, the resolution of 300 pixels per inch creates an even bigger file. So that's what happens with these. You'll get a file which is a certain size at 72 pixels per inch. The same piece of art, if it's rendered at 150, it's going to be a bigger file. And if it's rendered at 300 pixels per inch, it's going to be bigger still. So that's what really happens. What happens with a vector file, though, is that no matter what you do with that vector file, the vector file does not change. It always remains the same. But you have the ability to make that art bigger or smaller as you need, as long as it stays a vector file. And there are other vector programs, but what we're talking about is Adobe Illustrator, okay? The size of the bitmap file created through the conversion will depend on the resolution required by the final output method. The size of the unconverted file producing the bitmap will always remain the same. This makes it easy to convert from vector to a range of bitmap raster file formats, but it's much more difficult to go in the opposite direction. It's not easy to take a raster file and convert it to a vector file, especially if additional editing of the vector image is required. When I say that it's difficult, it is difficult but not impossible. And Adobe Illustrator actually does have the ability to take a raster file and convert it into a vector file. In the next 4 weeks, I'm going to demonstrate that to you 2 times so that you could actually see me do that. And it's something that you need to know how to do. When converting a vector file, it's likely to become bigger in scope, bigger in its size, and lose the advantage of scalability without loss of resolution. It no longer is possible to edit individual parts of the file as a vector discrete object. So here's what that's saying, essentially. When you have a vector file, I could have an object that's made up of 10 separate vector shapes to create my overall image, okay? It's maybe a little hard for you to imagine, but you'll see as I do this. So you've got an image that's made up of 5 shapes. You can edit any of those shapes. As long as it stays a vector, you can edit any of those shapes any way that you're able to edit them. But once you convert that into a bitmap or a raster file, you can't edit it as a vector anymore. It becomes part of a bitmap. It becomes part of just a series of dots. You lose the editability that you have. So you can't edit a bitmap in the same way that you can edit a vector. Vector formats are not always the first choice in some areas of graphic art. Devices such as cameras and scanners produce continuous tone raster graphics that can be difficult to convert into vectors. So essentially, to make this easy, if you're scanning a piece of art, or if you have a camera and you take a picture, you are not creating a vector. You're creating a raster graphic, which can be difficult to convert into vector. It kind of depends on the image or the photo. As I say, I will demonstrate to you in weeks to come how that is done. For this type of work, an image editor such as Adobe Photoshop will operate on the pixels rather than on drawing objects defined by vectors. Just so that you know, Adobe Photoshop does have certain aspects of the program that creates vectors for you, but Adobe Photoshop is essentially a raster editing program, just like Adobe Illustrator is a vector producing. Can you say it another way? Can I say another way what? To where I can understand. What are you asking me to say differently, Anita? I'm not sure what you're asking me to say differently. Tell me what it is you want me to say differently, and I'll try, because I'm not sure what you're asking. For this type of work, oh, actually, I didn't. There we go. Adobe's comprehensive graphic applications can combine images from both vector and raster sources. That's one of the things that is so great about Adobe Illustrator is all these programs come from the same source, so you can actually incorporate vector and raster graphics together in both. So in Photoshop, I can actually import Illustrator vector files, and I can modify them in Adobe Photoshop. The same thing is true for Adobe Illustrator. I can take images that I'm working on in Adobe Photoshop, bring them into Illustrator, and play with them as well, or incorporate them into something that I'm working on. Adobe Illustrator is a vector graphics application developed and marketed by Adobe Systems. Illustrator is primarily used to create what is often called outline art. So another term for vector art is outline art. Examples of outline art are typically like a company logo, a line drawing, a cartoon, or a customized design found on virtually any commercial product today. And you will actually see a few of these things through the next 4 weeks as we go through our lessons and different things that I will show you. With Illustrator, you create outline art by simply drawing the outline of a shape. You assign to it a fill. I have a learning problem, so it makes it okay. Yeah, and the other thing too is, Anita, do not hesitate to give me a call if there's something that you don't get, because it would be easier for me in a situation where I could go one-on-one with you to sit down and explain things in a different way. So please feel free, and that goes for everybody else. I mean, you know, if something is being said that you're not getting, and I'm not, you know, I'm moving on, just jot down the notes of what you want me to clarify for you. Give me a call, and I will definitely clarify that for you. I'm absolutely sure I'd have no trouble clarifying anything that you'd want, because ultimately I'm taking you through the course. So whatever it is that I'm covering here, if you need clarification on it, I'm your guy, okay? Illustrator, you create outline art by simply drawing out. Okay, well, anyway, I covered that. Come on, where's my, okay, here we go. There we go. The program is widely used by graphic and digital artists all over the world. The latest version of the program is a complete vector graphics environment that works in concert with Adobe Creative Suite. The thing that's so great about Adobe is essentially the industry standard. I mean, it just is. That's what everybody is using. I mean, there are some people that use different versions, and generally the reason they're doing that is because they don't want to spend the money to do Adobe Illustrator, but the majority of people use these programs. So that is why we're here studying these programs as opposed to some of the others that are there. Some of its features include a whole set of drawing tools for on-screen drawing, many new panels that can edit an object appearance and also deliver files to printers, developers, and other applications in a way much easier than before. Adobe Illustrator provides precision and power with sophisticated tools used to create distinctive vector artwork for any programs or any project. Drawing with the pen tool. Now, the pen tool, we're going to actually do an exercise on this, but I just want to quickly show you this. The simplest path you can draw with a pen tool is a straight line, made by clicking the pen tool to create 2 anchor points. By continuing to click, you create a path made of straight line segments connected to corner points. Take a look at these 2 sketches here. Here is a star shape. One of the exercises that you're going to do is to create the star shape. And how you do this is there actually is a template that you're going to download, and you're going to use this template to walk you through this exercise. So it's not like you're going to have to do this like this is being done on the fly. There's actual template that you can follow, and I'm going to show you a couple of them tonight. But essentially what you're doing to create this star shape is you're taking that tool, which is the pen tool, and you're clicking somewhere, in the case right here, and then you move to a new position and you click here. Then you move to a new position and you click here, and you continue doing this, move, click, move, click, move, click, move, click, move, click, all the way around until you finish making your star shape. What you do next is you come to where you began, right there, and you click to close the path. And when you do that, you'll see that little indicia there, that little symbol, a little circle will appear, and that will indicate that you're going to close the shape. I will show you that later when I do my demonstration. You position the pen tool where you want the straight line segment to begin and click to define the first anchor point. For a straight line segment, you do not drag. That will create a straight line segment. So the action is click, move, click, move, click, move, click, straight line segment. Okay? Yeah, it is fun. It really is not difficult. It does take some getting used to, so just so that you know, but it is fun. And once you get the hang of it and you start becoming able to create really sophisticated, nice things, you're going to really have some fun. Continue clicking to set anchor points for additional straight line segments. The last anchor point you add always appears as a solid square, indicating that it is selected. Previously defined anchor points become hollow, deselected. So essentially what you're looking at over here is that is a selected anchor point. And the rest of these anchor points here they are not selected. That's the selected anchor point. The first segment you draw will not be visible until you click a second anchor point. Select the rubber band option in Photoshop to preview past segments. Also, to direct lines, if the direction lines appears, you accidentally drag the pen. I will show you what that is like.
Here, look at his paw, thingy.
Dragging curves with the pen tool.
Look at his paw.
Yeah, so Don, you like them female milk traps?
There we go. Okay. You create a curve by adding an anchor point where the curve changes direction and dragging the direction lines that shape the curve. So now we're talking about curve sections. The length and slope of the direction line determines the shape of the curve. Curves are easier to edit, and your system can display and print them faster if you draw them using a few anchor points as possible. When we do the exercises, you're going to see how to create things like a circle, a star, and it'll show you the proper way to do it. And it basically is by using only as many anchor points as you ultimately need. Using too many anchor points can also introduce unwanted bumps into a curve. Instead, draw widely spaced anchor points and practice shaping curves by adjusting the length and angles of the direction lines. Drawing with the pen tool, select the pen tool, position the pen tool where you want, and here you can see, again, where they're doing a demonstration of a couple of things. Like here is the pen tool, and you're clicking it, and there's your anchor point, and what you're doing is you're dragging this point, and what you're getting is you're getting your control handles. These control handles coming out are what you use to create curved line segments. So you see what a curved line segment looks like? When we were looking at the star, we were not seeing these control arms coming out. Okay? In Photoshop, the pointer changes only after you started dragging. Drag to set the slope of the curved segment you are creating, and then release the mouse. So see, basically what's happening here is you're clicking and dragging. Actually, you're clicking and dragging up to create the downward curve. That's essentially what you're doing there. In general, extend the direction line about 1/3 of the distance of the next anchor point you plan to draw. So it's giving you some idea. But here's the thing. When you get into this with the pen tool, it's a whole lot different than me just showing you a couple of static graphics here. The truth of the matter is you're going to play with this a little bit. You'll have some success. You'll have some failures. It'll take a little bit of time, but if you persist and if you keep trying, you're going to find that you'll succeed. You can adjust one or both sides of the direction line. So that's the nice thing about this. Once you actually get these control handles out here, they are available to you. All you have to do is use the direct selection tool. There are different selection tools. We'll talk about that in a little bit. There are different selection tools, and you'll use the direct selection tool to access one of the anchor points, and then your control handles will come out, and you'll be able to change the direction. And here is a drawing tool gallery, and you can see some of the different things that you can do with this. The pen tool draws straight and curved lines to create objects. Here's a series of straight lines and then some curved lines. The add anchor point tool adds anchor points to paths. The anchor point tool, there's actually a nest of 4 tools in the toolbar. The pen tool and the add anchor point tool, the delete anchor point tool, and the convert anchor point tool. And to be honest with you, at one time or another, you will probably use all of them, okay? And you create and manipulate documents and files using various elements such as panels, bars, and windows. An arrangement of these elements is called a workspace. Essentially, there are different workspaces. These are not something that I generally do a lot of work with. I more or less have set up my own workspace, and I don't always use that. I kind of sometimes just open up a file and work with the default. It all comes down to you and how you want to work, okay? But ultimately, when you create and manipulate documents, this is the important part of this entire statement, you're using various elements, such as panels, the bars, and windows and tools, okay? Workspaces of different applications in Adobe Creative Suite share a similar appearance so that you can move between the applications more easily. To be totally honest with you, Adobe Illustrator is one of a series of applications that are in the Adobe Creative Suite, and the Adobe Creative Suite has done, or Adobe has done a very good job of making a very consistent appearance to all of its products, making it somewhat easier for you to be able to understand them and as a whole. You can adapt each application to the way you work by selecting from several preset workspaces, or you can create one of your own. Although the default workspace layout varies in different products, you manipulate the elements much the same way in all of them. And this is your default Illustrator workspace. Number one are your tabbed document windows. So what you're looking at here, you're looking at one of the Illustrator files, and this one here is the Illustrator file that is not being shown. There they are. There's two of them open at this point. The next thing is the applications bar. The applications bar is, and you can't see it, but it's right here. And that's where you have your Adobe Illustrator, your Bridge, your Essentials, or actually your Workspaces, and a search bar, and you can access Creative Space Live. The next one is the Workspace Switcher. That's that right there, the Workspace Switcher. Essentially, you click on this and you open it up, and there are a number of different types of workspace that you can work with. The panel title bar. There is your panels, and the panel title bar is right there. And the control panel is right here. The control panel is what's known as context sensitive, or context sensitive, I should say. Depending upon what you have selected, if it's an object, it's going to give you a set of instructions or a set of commands that you can use. If you have something like text selected, the control panel will look entirely different. Context sensitive. Then you've got your tools over here. There's an awful lot of tools in here, but don't let that worry you. You don't have to worry about all those tools right now. The ones that we're going to work on, focus on them and get an understanding of them first and foremost. Two things are going to happen. As you become comfortable with the tools that we do practice and learn here, you're going to feel a little bit stronger, and you're going to go in and you're going to play around with some of the other tools and find out that there's similarities for those tools and the other tools. And through the courses that you're going to have here at the college, you're going to see where different courses are going to bring out to you different tools. You're going to actually learn more different tools in different courses. So just be aware of that. 4 panel groups in the vertical dock. These are your panel groups over here. And that is the end of my PowerPoint for tonight. I don't want to spend the entire night on it. So again, I'm going to end with that. Any questions? Anything anybody wants to say?
I'm good.
Okay. Anita's saying something here. What is Anita saying here?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Go ahead, talk.
Your last screen, was that on a HP or was that on a Mac? Because my Adobe Illustrator doesn't look nothing like that.
Oh, I have a PC. And
Okay.
even though your Adobe Illustrator is going to work a little bit different and it is going to look a little bit different, I don't want you to get too upset. It is not something that is going to hurt you too much because they are similar. They are very similar. There are a couple of commands that are different, and there's a slight difference in the appearance and the layout of things, but you'll find that you will not have too much trouble following me when we actually start playing around with this stuff. Okay?
Okay.
Okay. So that's the first thing. Any other questions or any other comments or anything at all before we move on? Are we all good?
I was going to say the same thing because I'm on a Mac as well.
Yeah. So yeah, you'll get used to it. Some of the instructors, see, I don't know. There's a good number of instructors. I don't know them all. I mean, and not every instructor knows me. But I work on PCs because I'm a cheapskate. I had Macs my whole life, and I basically started buying PCs because I started to think to myself, the PCs have gotten very good and work extremely well with the programs that I need to work with, and I can find a lot better ways to spend the extra money that I would be spending to buy the Macintoshes. So, you know, that's why I bought the PCs, just so I don't have to spend the big bucks on the Macs. Now, I believe all of you guys get Macs from the college. Is that correct? Or am I wrong about that?
If you're in graphic designs, you get Macs.
Okay, so you see, that's good. So at least you have a Mac, and there's nothing wrong with a Mac. I like Macs. I work with Macs, okay? I teach a class, a web design class at a museum here in my state, and they have Macs up there. So I have no problem with that. And very often when I work for people, many of them have Macs and PCs. So one of the things that I do recommend is that you get familiar with Macs and PCs both, okay?
Okay, yeah, I have both. I have my iMac, and my husband has a PC, so.
Okay, good.
Working there.
You have the same programs on both now?
Yeah, except mine are not CS6. Mine is CC 2014.
Okay. Well, then here's what I recommend for you. I recommend that you choose, for now, since you're learning the program, right? I mean, you're learning the program?
Right.
Yeah. What I would do is I would recommend that you decide on which application or which computer you want to work with, operating system. You want to work on the Mac, you want to work on the PC, and I would focus on learning the program on that computer and not worry so much about going from back and forth on the computers. That's something that you can deal with later on. Right now, make it easy on yourself and focus on the actual application and learning how to work with the application, so that later on, after you get comfortable with the application, you can start going into your, let's say you pick your Mac. You can start later on going in and going on your husband's PC and opening up the program and seeing how they differ. Okay?
Right.
But don't worry about that right now. And that goes the same with everybody. Just work with your Mac. If you have any questions, you hit me with them as we go along, and I'll try to clarify as we go along. Because remember, I am on a PC. Things are going to be a little bit different. But I have a feeling that after a couple of nights together, you'll probably begin to feel a little bit more comfortable. And I will try to do things in as much of a way as I can, similar to what you would be doing on your Macintosh. Okay?
Okay.
Let's see. Anything else I need to say about this? No, I guess not. Are you guys through questioning me? Is there anything you want to, anybody else got anything you want to throw
I
out?
had a question, but it doesn't concern the class.
That's fine.
It concerns the checkpoint. I cannot get into it. It says I'm unauthorized.
For your checkpoint?
Yeah, so since I've been trying all day, and if I can't get into it, do I get the credit for it?
I would see, the problem is that since this is a new system, it's been giving me trouble and all the other instructors trouble as well.
Yeah, I can't even get into my ebook right now.
Yeah, I know. I've had had a number of students tell me this, so I'm aware of it. But again, what I recommend that you do is contact help. Go into the Canvas and contact help.
You know, I did, and they told me to contact you.
Me?
Yeah.
All right. Well, you know what? Let me do this. Hold on. Since that's what they're saying, here's what I'm going to do. And I have a funny feeling that I'm not going to get very far with this. I'm going to make a note to inquire about the ebook
And checkpoint.
and checkpoint.
Because I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning with my husband and send him off, and I like doing my checkpoint like first thing in the morning.
Yeah. Okay, so I don't know. At this point, I'm not 100% certain who my associate dean is, but I know who to contact over this, and I'll send her an email either tonight or tomorrow morning. It depends on whether I get around to it or not. But I'll send an email, and I'll tell them that students are having trouble with their ebook, and I've had inquiries about the checkpoints. Not so. What is it actually saying about the checkpoints?
I'm unauthorized to get into there.
Okay, so you're not accessing it.
Right.
To get to. Okay, I will contact her and I will let her know this, and she will probably tell me something. But just bear in mind that this is the first day. We are in our first course, first day, completely new system. I'm actually glad that you guys are even here, because I'll be totally honest with you. I did battle with this Friday, Saturday, Sunday. 3 solid days I fought with this system to get myself up and running for these classes. Took me that long to do it, and I did it, and I feel very good about it because it was not easy. But that's the thing. This is brand new, and now that I've got it, I'm hoping that they'll get the bugs out of it quickly, and it'll all calm down, and we'll have a really nice environment. And there are certain things about this that potentially could be really good. But again, it's new, and there are probably some bugs and some things that they haven't quite ironed out yet. And I think they'll get around that eventually. So just hang in there and bear with it, and don't let it frustrate you. I'm aware of it as you are, and I'll deal with you. As far as the book is concerned, you know, there are certain things that you guys want to accomplish this week. If you go in and take a look at my announcements, I have placed 3 announcements in there that have some material for you in those announcements that I think will help you get your assignments done and your discussion done a little easier. Okay, so go in and take a look at my announcements and download the files that I have in there for you. Take a look at them and see if it helps you at all. Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, so that's that, and there's 3 things that I'm going to bring up here. So we have a discussion. This is the rubric that we are using for the discussion. Now, you guys are all familiar with rubrics, right?
Yep.
Anybody not familiar with rubrics?
I'm not.
You're not. Never used one before?
Not that I know of.
Okay, well, here's what they basically do. They give me some kind of an honest criteria for critiquing your work. For instance, let's take a look at this one. The overall post, posted by Wednesday, met required length of post, and participated on multiple days. So essentially, if you do those things, if you post your initial post by Wednesday, if you read the post, or read your posting discussion requirements, what they're telling you they want you to discuss. So if you understand and meet the required length and posting criteria, and if you post on multiple days, when they say post on multiple days, you do an initial post and you log in a couple of days and reply to other students. You are aware of that, right? This is what you do?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you do that, if your initial post is put in by Wednesday, which is one of the requirements, and if you meet the required length of the post, which means a certain, what they tell you, and if you participate on multiple days, meaning you put your post in on one day, come in the next day and respond to a student or 2, and then come back another day and respond to a student or 2, you'll get 10 points. If you address all the elements of the question, and if you support these elements with examples which demonstrate your knowledge and organization, and it supports what it is that you're discussing, you get 35 points. So the other thing is the primary post format. There are approved APA formatting, which students, you got to avoid spelling errors, be careful of spelling errors, give me good sentence structure, and also make sure that you properly reference any material that requires referencing. You get 5 points. And you have to add two meaningful responses to the discussion. You clarify the content through additional questioning while keeping the topic of the original post. Questioning to extend the conversation. You get 10 points. So essentially, give me 2 responses at least, and make sure that you are questioning, or you include questioning, so that you can extend the conversation, invite somebody to comment on your comment. Does that make sense to you, everybody?
Yes.
And then you get 10 points for that. So the total is 60 points. This rubric gives you an idea of how I am going to take a look at your discussion and what I'm going to use to critique it and give you points. So if you miss stuff from any of these groups, I'm going to be deducting points. So I just want you to know that. I will put together for you a zip file that has all 3 of these rubrics in it. And then you can download those rubrics and keep them and check them to make sure that you fully understand what you have to do. Is that okay? Everybody good?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Okay, so that's the first rubric. Let me close that one.
Okay.
And let's go to the assignment. The assignment is the next one. So there's an assignment rubric as well. It isn't incredibly different, but there are subtle differences. Since the assignment is not a discussion, what we're talking about is some sort of a project. So the overall assignment, did you submit the assignment on time, required in a deadline? Usually the assignment deadline is Saturday by 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, the end of that week. So week 1 assignment must be in no later than Saturday 11:59 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. If you have that assignment in on time, you get 10 points. Simple, right? I mean, it's not hard. The next one is the primary assignment quality. Did you address all the elements of the assignment or the exam? And with any associated images, references, or links properly indicated or embedded. And also with any text converted to outline or form. One of the problems that I have had with students time and time again, and it's not difficult to understand, you're learning, but I'm trying to make it easy for you. When you have links, links do not embed automatically. So if you link something to your page, like for instance, when you guys do I'll use this as an example, when you do either your outline, or you're going to do your robot next week, or even when you're going to do your assignment this week, which is the drawing exercise, there are going to be 3 images that you're going to bring into your file. You need to embed those images because they only link. And if you send me the file without it linked, the file gets lost. So you have to embed it. But there's another thing too. You'll probably be sending it to me as a PDF, in which case the PDF will be fine. The only thing is text needs to be converted, and I'm going to show you how to convert it. Okay? So if you do all that, you get 25 points. You submitted the next one is primary assignment format. Submit the assignment project correctly and in the specified file format. So whatever you're being instructed to do as far as submission is concerned, generally the submission will be a PDF. So if you send it to me correctly in a PDF form, you'll get 5 points. And then of course creativity. You convince me, the instructor, that you placed adequate energy on the assignment. The overall quality of the work is par with the expectations of the class. Do I look at this job and am I convinced that you actually tried to do this? I know this may sound loony to you, but I can only promise you that, what? I'm sorry, was that for me? Wow. What I'm saying here is I've had students that send me stuff that I mean, I look at it and I absolutely clearly know that they did not put any kind of effort into this. So ultimately, creativity gives me the opportunity to look at this and think to myself, is this where this student should be? Is this student showing me that they are trying to get this thing done and done correctly and with nice style? That's what that's really all about. You get 20 points if you do that. Okay? So there is that. Any questions about that?
No.
Are you all good? You understand what's going on with that? Again, I will put this in for you so that you can actually see, you can actually get this. Okay, the last one here is the rubric for the assessment. I'm not going to go into great detail with this. By now, you can see that it works in very much the same way as the assignment. The overall assignment, meet the deadline, primary assessment of quality, primary assessment of format, specified format, creativity. Am I convinced that you put your energy into this project? If you do that, you get 60 points for that. So just one more time for you to understand. These grading rubrics are essentially what I'm going to use to determine your grade on any particular project that you submit to me. Okay? And in all fairness, I just want to make sure that I send you these so that you have them and you have a pretty good idea of where I'm heading with them. Okay? So that's that. I'm going to get out of there. Now, there's two other things that I want to show you here, and then we'll get into the meat of this, which is to show you the pen exercises. So here's one thing. The one thing that I'm going to show you very quickly is 10 things that you want to know about Adobe Illustrator. Again, since most of you here are brand new at Adobe Illustrator, I've put together this sheet. Bear in mind, I told you that I put these in my announcements. You can go in and you can download this from my announcements and you can put it on your computer, and if you'd like, you can take it to Kinko's or Staples and you can literally print this out, put it on your desktop, and you can use this as kind of a walking guide to get yourself going. What is Illustrator? Illustrator is a vector artwork creation and modification application. Vector artwork is scalable using the native AI format, can be re-exported time and time again, blah, 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 blah. How do you create a new document? File, new documents dialog box. There's the dialog box. I am not going to go over that dialog box right now because the next thing I'm going to do is take you into Photoshop, or Illustrator, sorry, and I'm going to go through the process of creating a new document at least 2 times for you. And we will talk about all the stuff that's in there. Okay? So I'm not going to do that right this second. But just so that you know, you're going to be doing things like setting the name, the type of profile, the number of artboards, spacing for the artboards, the size of the board, the width and the height, which is the size, the units, which is the way you're going to measure, orientation, your bleeds for advanced modes, color effect, raster effects, and all that. Templates, okay, and cancel are what you use to either cancel or accept your document. Artboards. Artboards is a way of dealing with multiple pages. What's really nice in Adobe Illustrator is you can have multiple artboards in one file. So if you're doing a stationery set for somebody, you can create an artboard for a letterhead, you can create an artboard for an envelope, and you can create an artboard for a business card. And you can make them all different sizes. So it's really nice. So in one file, you actually have the ability to create 3 separate artboards. I'll show you a little bit about that. And I know that in classes that you're going to come up against, you will basically learn a lot more about this. This isn't really the kind of stuff that we're going to be dealing with in this class so much, but it's basic stuff. That's why 10 things I thought this would help you. Okay, and of course, window artboards, there's an artboard panel. Oh, and just so that you know, every panel is located in the window menu, in the menu bar at the top. Okay, and then of course you have numbers of artboards, the settings, number, spacing, columns, artboard tool. There's also an artboard tool in the toolbar, which enables you to resize and move the artboard that you've created. The shapes tool. We will be working with the shapes tool these weeks. As a matter of fact, I believe it's next week, you will be working on rendering a robot, and you will be using the basic shapes to render this robot. So you will want to know about these shapes. The shapes have a tear off, which means essentially you can pull the shapes out and sit the shapes on your desktop so that you can bounce from shape to shape very quickly, very efficiently. Rectangular shape is very common. The rounded rectangle, which is the next one, means essentially that you get a rectangle, but you have the ability to modify the corners, giving it a rounder appearance. The ellipse tool, which ultimately is what you use to create circles as well. Then there's a polygon tool, and then you have a star tool, and then you have a flare tool, which to me, I can really never figure out why the flare tool is in with these tools, because it is so unlike the other tools. It's more of an effect tool, but it's there. And then of course, You can come in and you can manipulate with the selection tool, the direct selection tool, pen and related tools, and of course, modify the stacking order. So these things here, okay, these things here all kind of relate to what you can do with your basic shapes, which is a very important part of your training right now, because these now are things that you're going to be dealing with over the next few weeks. Then there's the path, lines, and brushes. We're going to create paths. For those of you who have actually, I know someone said that they did, this is what the tear-off looks like of your path tools. This is your pen tool, and this is your add anchor point, delete anchor point, and convert anchor point. You click and click to create straight line, click and drag to create smooth curved lines. I'll show you that in a minute. And shift click to constrain a line. So there's 3 different things that you can do with that. The line tool, click and drag, shift click and drag. You can create a straight line, a curving line, a spiral, a grid, or a bullseye. Call it a bullseye. It's probably got a different name. Then there's freeform drawing tools. Freeform drawing tools can be useful. What's really nice about the freeform drawing tools is that it has what's known as a smooth tool and erase tool, which means that if you draw a free-form shape with your pencil tool, you can modify that shape using the smooth tool, which gives you the ability to kind of smooth it out. You can also cut the shape by using the eraser tool. By dragging over a section of your line that you created, it'll cut it away. Pretty cool. Then you've got your paintbrush tool, which is very similar in appearance to what you have with your pencil tool, except that it's slightly different in appearance. You got the blob brush tool, which is great. You can actually, create what's sort of like a painting, a blobby kind of paint. Great. It's really a fun tool, and we will probably be using it, I think, in the 3rd week. The strokes and fills. Essentially, when you're working with vectors, the 2 primary things that you're going to be working with, the fill of the object and the stroke of the object. So when I'm talking about an object, if I draw a circle, the circle is an object. I can put a fill into it of any color that I choose from my color, and I can put a stroke around it of whatever size I would like that stroke to be, and of any color that I want. So those are basically what you can do. You also can put gradients, and you can also remove something by clicking on the none, okay? So you can fill with a default color, which is that's what a default color looks like. And then you have the stroke default, which is black. And then swap, you can swap that. So in other words, if you want to click that button right there, you'll put the black into the fill, and you'll put the white into the stroke. That's what the swap means. And then, of course, the default is that right there, which means if you have this with red in it and that with blue, if you want to go back to the default, you click that button, and it'll automatically put the defaults back in for you. Last color. What it will do is it will register and keep for you the last color that you're working with. So if you want to go back to the last color, you can click on that, and it'll give you the last color. And then, of course, the same thing with a gradient. It'll give you the last default gradient that you're using, and then that's the none. Okay? You work with the swatches palette, the color picker, the color panel, and the color guide. So there's like 4 different things that you can use to get color. Okay? Solid, gradients, and patterns. And then we got transform objects. This is another thing that you're going to find extremely valuable, transforming objects. Okay, there's a transform panel, and again, as I said, most of your panels are located in the Windows menu. So Windows transform, and we'll probably see a little bit of that. And here's your Pathfinder. The Pathfinder is one of the mechanisms that you use to transform. And then you also have the shape builder tool, okay? And then, of course, you have type. And here's some type, and you can see that we can modify type in many different ways. That's just one. Placing and tracing graphics. We will be doing that. I think we actually, well, I don't know that we're tracing. Yeah, we actually do. We actually do. In the 4th week, we're going to create a drawing of a superhero. And we're going to scan it in, and we're going to trace it, and we're going to modify it to create a superhero. And I'm going to show you how I did it. But this is a simple drawing that I did, and I scanned it, and then I traced it. Okay, so basically what you're doing is you're going to bring the thing in, File, Place. You're going to place it in the Links panel. You're going to link the graphic. You're going to change it to embed the graphic. Okay, and then what happens is when you hit Image Trace, you create a vector form of the art. So take a look up here. That's what the art looks like as a bitmap. It'll have a little blue cross running through the middle of it. Once you make the conversion to vector art, it becomes like a piece of vector art where you have the outlines on it. So there it's been converted, okay? And creating a clipping mask, we're going to do that. We'll work with the type tool. There's the type tools. You have the regular type tool, type in a box tool, type on a line, vertical type area tool, and then the vertical type on a line tool, okay, on a path tool. And then, of course, this is what type looks like when it's live. And when I say live, it hasn't been converted to outlines. When you convert type to outlines, essentially what you're doing is you're turning them into graphic shapes. So that's why if you look at this text here has that line underneath it, meaning that this is still in a text form. And you can go in if you wanted to, and you could change that text, change the lettering on it. Once you go and create it into outlines, notice that the outline changes and it becomes an outline that surrounds each letter. Now it has become an object, and it is no longer editable as text. You need to understand these things because you will be using all of them, okay? And then you can distort type. This is the warping dialog box. One of the things that you can do with text is warp it. And there, if you drop this style down, there's all kinds of different warps. And then you have these sliders, which enable you to use infinite numbers of settings to warp your text. Great fun, great creativity, a lot of fun things that you could do. We'll get to it eventually. Again, I'm just running through this just so that you know these are in announcements, so you can go and get them, look at them, and play with any part of them that you want, okay? And then, of course, saving and outputting files. Two things that are incredibly important for you to understand is how do you create a document, how do you save a document, and then how do you save a document in another file format. These are things that we are going to cover. We will cover a little bit of it tonight, and we will cover more of it through the course of the next nights, okay? And then, of course, there's your saving. And then that's it. That's basically that. So that's that, and it's in there for you. Oh, and I'm not going to go through this because this is what I used. This is more or less what I used to create my PowerPoint. So even though I'm not putting the PowerPoint in there for you, I've put this in there for you. And if you want to see my PowerPoint, come back and look at my recorded video, and you can see the entire PowerPoint. But if you want the text from it, this file here, what is Vector, what is Illustrator, that is the text that I used for my presentation in PowerPoint. Okay, so now you have access to everything that I've been using to get us ready for tonight. Anybody have any questions about any of this? Anybody unsure of where you go to find these things? Let me know now if you are.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah? Nobody's...
Good.
What?
I'm good.
Okay, great. Okay. All right, so that leaves us with the final thing for the night, and that is the exercises. So what you're going to do this week, so you guys understand, basically you do understand what your discussion is, right? I mean, basically you're going to talk about is vector art an art form? That's really what you're talking about. Is it an art form? I mean, if you go to a gallery and you take a look at a painting is a piece of art. The question is, do you think that vector art is a piece of art in the same way? Does everybody understand the question?
I believe so.
Okay, that's what the discussion is. So what I'm looking for you is your opinion. And again, this is an opinion. It's not, you know, there's no right or wrong answer. It's your opinion. And I'd like to have an interesting discussion with all of you about whether you think, because I know what I think, and I'm going to tell you as I look at what you say. But the only way I'm going to really have a discussion with you is to hear what you think. So based on what you know about art, do you think vector art is art. And that's what we're looking for, okay? So, if everybody understands that, we're left with three different things that are actually, yeah, three different things we're going to look at tonight, and that is our pen exercise and our trace. All right, so there is a template right here. See this? It says pen tool exercises. There is a file that you're going to download, and you're going to open up in Adobe Illustrator, just like I did. And what it's going to do for you is it's going to give you straight lines right here, curved lines, multiple curves, curves with corner points, curves with corner points too, combining curves and straight lines, curves with corner points, and tweaking handles. So you're going to have to figure all these out. I don't have time to do all of them for you. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this one, and this one, and I'm going to leave you to struggle with these. And I say that loosely because I think ultimately if you can get through this, this, and this, and if you read the instructions that are there, I think you shouldn't have any trouble figuring them out. But I want to show you at least these three, and I want to leave enough time for me to go in and show you how to do the trace. And I also want to show you, see, in this case, I've already set up a file here. Number one, pen tool -exercise _1.ai. That is a file that I created to do this. So you haven't seen me create this. I want to show you how to create a file. I want to talk to you a little bit about the create a new document dialog box. So I need to do a lot of that stuff as well. But I thought the first thing I would do is give you a very quick look at the pen tool, because the pen tool, in my opinion, is probably the biggest challenge that you face right now. So I wanted to start with that, give you as much time as possible to interact with me if you're having any problems understanding what I'm doing. Does that make sense to you all? Do you think that's a good plan?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so let's do this. I got my, here's my toolbar, and right now I have my my eyeglass tool here, which means I'm going to zoom in. There we go. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and see where I am. I'm over top of the pen tool, right? Now I want you to notice something right away. If you take a look there, it says selection tool. Each one of these tools has a little pop-up that tells you what the tool is. That makes it really nice because ultimately, you know, you can see what you're going for. Now there's my selection tool. I use a selection tool a lot. Then there's the direct selection tool. I want you to notice something. Look over here in the lower left-hand corner. Does everybody see that little white triangle in the corner of that icon?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
so for those of you who don't know, many of these tools have that. What that does basically is that tells you that there are other tools nested with that tool. That's what that means. So when I look at the pen tool right there, I'm sorry, the selection tool, when I look at the selection tool and I see that there is no little corner like that, I know that there's no other tool in there but that tool. That's it, okay? Right here, the blob tool, you'll notice it doesn't have anything in its corner. That's the only tool. So all the rest of the tools that have those little things in the corner, watch the pen tool. I click and hold. Right now I'm clicking and holding my tool, or my mouse on this tool. I get my pop-up and I see the pen tool, add anchor point tool, delete anchor point tool, convert anchor point tool, right? You've all seen that before? Right?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Now, I want you to also notice that when I slowly drag across here, all the way across to here, you notice on this side, there's a little bar there and there's a little arrow. Do you see that little bar at the arrow? I'm almost on it. See it? I'm on it now. See it? And it
Yes.
highlights dark. That is what's known as the tear off or the tear out. When I let go on this, I'm sitting on it with my finger on the mouse. When I let go over top of this, it pops the tools out. So now I've actually torn the tools out of the toolbar and I have them sitting on the desktop. So it's a very important thing that I'm trying to show you here, is because when you start working with these tools, you find that very often you're going to want to use more than one tool. And the best thing to do is to pull the tools out that you want to use. Now, I may not use these tools, but these tools are tools that I very often use in conjunction with these tools right here. And so I can demonstrate you how to do this again. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click, and I'm going to move to the tear off right there, and I'm going to let go of my mouse, and now I've torn that out, and I can move those tools out. So now I have two sets of tools out here, and I can click from tool to tool to tool, and I can use my tools. Okay? Is that easy?
Easy peasy.
Great. All right, now let's get to this. So what you got here, you've got some very simple instructions. Now, don't overthink this, please. Look at what it's telling you to do and just do what it's telling you to do. Nothing more, nothing less. So in this particular case, it starts off by saying straight lines. So what we're going to do is we're going to get our pen tool, because in order to create these lines, we need the pen tool to do this. So I'm going to get the pen tool, and I'm going to go to number 1. We're going to go in this direction. 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and then we're going to close it back at 1. So again, what does it tell me to do? For straight lines, it tells me to start off by clicking here. So I'm going to place my pen tool right there and click. And there you can see, you see that little blue thing in there? See where I placed that little blue anchor point? That's what that is. That's an anchor point. And when it's blue like that, it means that it's selected. And that's what you want. You want to leave it the way it is, okay? Now I'm going to come down here, and I'm going to go to 2, and where that little dot is, I'm going to click there. And notice that now this anchor point turns to open anchor point, and this one turns to close. See it? And notice that I get a line segment. So what I'm doing essentially is I'm building the star shape. So now I'm going to go to 3, and I'm going to click, and I now have an open anchor point, and I have an open anchor point, and I have a closed anchor point, and I'm heading in the right direction. So just kind of follow me around, and I come over here, and I click 4. Now I'm going to speed up a little bit, and I'm going to move to 5, and I'm going to click 5, and then I'm going to click 6, 7, 8, 9, and here's what's happening. Can you see that my little circle has disappeared? The reason it's disappeared is because there's a fill of white here. Well, I want to show you something very interesting. So I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to click to place this in the wrong place. I really hope I'm not going to confuse you doing this, but I'm doing this for a reason. I can't see my little anchor point, and I'm not going to remove the white. I'm going to place this in the wrong place right there. And then I'm going to come over here. This is my last anchor point right here. See it? And I've now placed my last anchor point over top of my first anchor point. I'm about to close this shape. I want you to see what happens. When I move up to that anchor point, can you see that my pen changes? There's a little circle behind it. Does everybody see that circle? That circle is telling me that I'm about to close this shape, which is exactly what I want to do. So I click there, and now I have created my shape. Everything looks perfect on this. It looks like a star, except right there. Correct?
Yep.
Okay. So now, one of the reasons that I brought this out is because I want to show you how I can work with this tool to fix this. So I'm going to start off by clicking on the regular selection tool, and I'm going to select that, okay? And notice now that when I select that, all of these anchor points become solid, and I can move that object, okay? Control Z to put it back. If I come over here and I click on the direct selection tool, what the direct selection tool does that the regular selection tool does not do. The regular selection tool can only select the entire object as a whole, meaning that you can click it and move it. That's all it can do. The direct selection tool allows me to go in and click on any one of those anchor points that I want and move that anchor point alone wherever I want. So I created a problem with this, with that anchor point right there. So if I click on that anchor point, notice that that anchor point gets dark. See it? These anchor points are all open. They're not selected. Now watch this. I click and I drag. Look at that. You see how I move that anchor point? Do you understand what I'm doing? Makes sense?
Yep.
Now I click on this and I'm going to drag it over top of where it should be. And I now have what looks like a pretty good star. And if I click on the star with my selection tool, and if I double click here in the fill, I can get my color picker and I can change the color of my star. I'll make it a golden color. Click, hit OK, and there I've created my star, and that is the first part of your exercise. So, straight lines, click, move, click, move, click, move, click, move. Very simple. Do you guys think you could do it? Do you have any questions? I'm going to move on, but I'm going to give you the opportunity to question me about anything I did there. Does it look easy enough to you guys?
College connect the dots.
That's right. That's exactly what it is. But you know what? Listen, from the tiny acorn grows the mighty oak. That's the whole key here. So don't let it make you feel uncomfortable. This is kind of simply, where did I get the direct arrow? I got it right here. Watch, I'm going to close this. Over here, there's the regular selection tool. That, are you talking about when you say the direct arrow? There are tools called the direct selection tool. It's not really an arrow. It looks like an arrow. That's the selection tool. Right here is the direct selection tool and the group selection tool, and its tear off. I tore it out by clicking there, and I moved it over to here. And then I click on it, which is the direct selection tool, click on the anchor point that I want, and I move it. And then I can come back in and I can click and I can move it again. And when I get it in where I want it, I have my correct star. That is what you can do with your direct selection tool and anchor points. Does that answer your question, Kelly? Cool. Okay. Easy enough. Like he said, you know, it's college connect the dots. The next one's a little bit trickier, not terribly trickier. This one here, and I'm going to move these so that you can see this a little bit better. This one here is the curved line segment. Okay, now I want you to pay close attention to this because this is a little bit more of a tricky challenge. And again, I just want you to understand that this is not terribly difficult, especially if you take your time and read the instructions. So here's what we're doing. We're using the same tool. We're using the pen tool. So it doesn't even tell you anything about that. It's the same tool, pen tool. But here what we're going to do is we're going to create curved line segments. In order to create curved line segments, if we come in here with the regular selection tool, if I click, and then if I click, I've created a straight line segment. That is not a curved line segment. That is not what we're trying to do. Control Z and Control Z. What we're going to do is we're going to create curved segments. So in order to create a curved segment, before it was instructing you to go to number 1 and click, and then go to the next point and click, it doesn't say that. It says click and press here, hold down the shift key, drag to here, and release. So what you're going to do is you're going to click, you're going to hold down the shift key, and you're going to drag to there. So I'm holding the shift key down. Oh, and for everybody out there in TV land, the shift key works the same way on a Mac as it does on a PC. So you don't have to worry about a PC Mac type of deal. This instruction is the same instruction. So you're going to click, press and hold down the shift key, drag to here. When I let go of this, look what happened. I have my anchor point there, and I have my control handles have been dragged out to there. Okay? What we're going to do with this is we're going to create a circle. Now, there is a tool that I'm going to show you in a minute that will create a circle the easy way. But this exercise is meant to help you get a little bit of a feel for the very simple and basic things that you do with your pen tool. The only reason you're doing this, there's another easier way to make a circle, which I'm going to show you in a minute. But this is so that you can get a sense of how to work with the pen tool, and it is important. Okay, so we did that correctly. Now I'm going to come down to 3. And once again, I'm going to do the same thing. Click and press here, hold down the shift key, and drag to here, and then release. So I start off by clicking, and see, I got a curve already starting. I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to drag to there. When I get there, I release. And look, see what's happening? I got a nice curved segment. I'm going to do the same thing over here. I'm going to click. I'm going to hold down the shift key, and I'm going to drag to where it tells me to drag, which is right there. Easy. It really is not difficult. You just got to do it and practice it and read the instructions. Come here, click, hold down the shift key, and drag to here. And then finally, come over here, click, hold down the shift key, and drag to there. And look it, that is what I'm trying to accomplish. I'm trying to make a circular shape. I did that circular shape using 1, 2, 3, 4 points. And if you remember what it says about vectors, they tell you that they only want you to use as few points as possible. So we did it with 4 points. Now, just so that you understand, there is a tool over here. I'm going to click. I'm going to bring this out. And I'm going to show you that there is your ellipse tool. If you come over here and click and drag, you create an ellipse. That's an ellipse. If you come over here and click, hold down the shift key and drag, that ellipse turns into a perfect circle. So there I have just created very quickly a perfect circle, almost exactly. Oh, that's actually pretty good. Look at that. I made that really almost the same size. Holy mackerel. How about that, huh? The key here is that you're probably thinking to yourself, well, okay, so why am I, if I can make a circle that easy, why am I drawing the circle? You are drawing the circle to learn the pen tool. That's the whole point of this, is that we're trying to learn the pen tool, okay? So please understand where we're going with this. We're trying to teach you how to work with the pen tool. You will get plenty of opportunities to do more with the pen tool through the next 3 weeks. But for now, let's start simple and just work through some of these exercises. So that is the curved line segment. Before I move on, any questions? Anything anybody wants to say? Anything at all? Before we move on, do it now. No? We're all happy with this? Do you guys think you're going to be able to do this without any trouble based on what you're seeing here? Does it look clear enough to you?
Yep.
Great. Okay. I'm going to see. We might not have enough time to do one more, although I am running out of time. I want to get to the other files too. So actually, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is multiple curves. I'm going to let you work on this for now. I really am going to move on because, to be honest with you, it's the same basic process. Multiple curves. You're going to click to drag. Click where? One here. I'm sorry. Click here, and you're going to drag there and release. You're going to do exactly what this tells you to do. Click there and drag to release. You're going to do exactly what this tells you to do and see what it does. What I recommend, though, let me tell you one thing. What I recommend, though, is that when you do this, you see how I have a fill here? Does everybody see that fill? There's a stroke of black, and there's a fill of yellow. When you do these exercises, here's what I recommend you do. You click on the fill. Make sure that the fill is in the front. That's known as having the fill in the front. That's the targeted color. And what I'm going to do is see this little icon right here that says none. That's what that says, none. It's a little red line running through the white. I'm going to click on that, and notice now that there is no color in my fill. So that when I come in here and I drag to make my shape, see that? I just get an outline. I don't get any fill. So I recommend that when you do these exercises, you set the fill to none. So do you guys all understand that?
Yes,
Okay, cool.
I got it.
Great.
I'm good.
If anybody doesn't have it, either speak up or, text in something. Okay, so what I want to do now is I want to show you a couple of things. I want to show you how to create a document. That's the first thing. I want to show you how to import a document because you're going to have to do this. So here's the next thing I'm going to do. File, New. I'm going to create a new document. Really simple. You're going to go into the File menu and you're going to choose New. And you will get the New Document dialog box. Okay? When you create this new document, what you're going to do is you're going to import a graphic for tracing. That is the next part of this exercise for tonight. The tracing is going to take a little bit of work, a little bit of time to do, and we're running out of time, so I want to make sure I get through this. So here's the first thing that I'm going to do. I'm going to change the name of my document to Trace. Trace, because that's what this document is all about. As far as the profile is concerned, it doesn't matter right now what the profile is because this is just an exercise. So I'm just going to use basic RGB, okay? I'm just choosing that. Doesn't matter. I could leave it at the default if I want. The number of artboards, you don't have to trace both of these. At least I don't think that's what the exercise calls for. I think you have to choose. I think you have to do one. You either have to pick the turkey or you have to pick the man. Okay, there's a turkey and there's a man, and I think you have to do just one. Okay, so number of artboards I'm going to leave is one. If I'm wrong, and if it tells you to do them both, then you're going to create two artboards, and you do that by simply going 2 instead of 1. And now I got 2 artboards. Okay, and these give you an idea of the direction that your artboards are going to lay out. So if I went 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so forth. Or I'd have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You get it? That's essentially what that's all about. There's only going to be one. I'm going to go back. Only one. The spacing we don't have to worry about because the spacing only applies to more than one. But basically what I would do is if I had 2, what I would do is I'd put 0.5. What I'd do is put 0.75 IN. 75 IN means 3/4 of an inch. That's setting me up 3/4 of an inch between each other. That's how I would do that. But again, there's only going to be one, so we don't have to worry about that. The size. I am going to go with letter size because I want to have plenty of room to put this piece of artwork in. Again, this is just an exercise that you're doing. There's many different sizes that you can make here. Letter will be fine. And then, of course, what I'm going to be using instead of points is inches. You don't have to worry about that too much. I'm just doing it so that you know. You have an orientation. The orientation is what's known as vertical or portrait or landscape, which is horizontal. So I'm going to go with the vertical portrait. And then don't worry about the bleeds for now and the advanced because it will not really apply for here. So what is it for the height and the width? Okay, the width is 8.5 inches. If you imagine what's the size of a letter, 8.5 inches, and then of course the height is 11. So it's 8.5 wide by 11 high. That's what the size is of the width and the height, right there. Okay, and actually by choosing letter, I actually automatically put that number in there because that's what it knows that number to be. So now watch what happens when I hit OK. Okay, I now have a new file open. Here's my other file, the pen tool exercise. It's still there, open. And here's my new file, Trace. So what I end up with is a new blank document named Trace. Okay? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the piece of art that I'm going to use to trace. I'll do that right now. I go to the File menu to do this. Can you do it in landscape? I can do it in landscape, but I personally feel that the art that they've supplied us with fits better in portrait. So that's why I did it in a portrait. You'll see why in a minute when I bring it in, okay? So I'm going to go File, Place, right here, see? File, Place. I'm going to bring in a piece of art. And what I'm bringing in is a bitmap, okay? So File, Place, and I'm going to go into my desktop to where I have my files in my Illustrator Basic, right there. And I'm going to find in week 1 my, where are we at? I'm looking for my turkey. I'm going to do the turkey. Place. There's my turkey. So actually, if you wanted to see the size of this turkey, I'm actually wrong. You could do this landscape okay if you want. It doesn't matter to me. I just did it this way, okay? So there's my turkey. I'm going to show you how to trace this turkey. Now, when I talk about tracing the turkey, I am going to draw, I'm going to follow this. This is an exercise in working with the pen. That's essentially what this trace is all about, and that's why we're doing it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up to the Windows menu, and I'm going to bring out my layers. You guys are actually, my layers are out. You know where they are? They're over here. I can't get at them because I think my panel's in the way. Let me just get this out of here. Let me, oh, I'm going to have to do that one too. There we go. Okay, there's my panels. And there's my, I don't want that. And I don't want that. I want my layers. There's my layers right there. See my layers panel? Right there. Okay, let me open this up. That's what I want. I want my, hold on, chat. There we go. Okay, I want to get my chat back out so I can see you. Bear with me a little bit because, again, as I say, this interface is new to me and I'm still a little clumsy with it. Okay, so here's the deal. I have my turkey on this layer right here. I want to draw over top of the turkey. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lock that layer. That layer is locked. See how I have this little pencil here with the little crossed circle, meaning I can't touch that turkey? He's locked down. That's essentially what I did. I locked that layer. So now I'm going to create a new layer on top of it. And I'm going to call this my draw layer, D-R-A-W, draw layer. So this layer is not locked. I'm going to use this layer to draw. So watch what I do. I come over here and I swap the color. Now I have a black turkey here, so I can do a couple of things. I can either make this layer lighter or I can change the color. So I want to change the color. I'm going to click on this and I'm going to change the color to bright red and hit OK. So now I have a stroke of bright red. Everybody with me okay with this? See what I'm doing? Any questions about what I'm doing with this, why I'm doing this? I have my layer with the turkey on it, and I have a draw layer on top. I'm going to do a tracing of this turkey. And the best way to do this is by putting the layer above it, and I'm going to draw on that layer, locking that layer, keeping that layer from interacting with me. Okay? I need my pen tool, so I'm going to bring my pen tool over. And I probably need to zoom in a little bit, so I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Like about like that. That's probably pretty good. Move my layers over here a little bit, and now I can work. I don't need this anymore for now, and I don't need that anymore. Okay, so now there's my turkey. I'm going to try to trace this guy. This is going to take me a while to do because in order for me to trace this, I'm going to have to literally go around the entire outline of this turkey and draw it with a pen. Now, here's the thing that I want to tell you. It's absolutely essential for you to do this in one piece. You can't do this in multiple pieces. It will not work. So once you start doing this, you have to continue all the way around doing it. It can be a little bit tricky, but I just want to warn you, this is something that will only work if you do it in one continuous piece. Now watch how I do this. I have my fill set up to a stroke of red, and I'm going to set this to a 1-point line. So I got my stroke set. Oh, and by the way, just so that you know, if you remember I told you that this panel up here is context sensitive. So right now I have my, my pen tool, and it is showing me my selection for setting up my lines. So here's how I draw this. I start, let's say I'm going to start right here. I click and place my first point. Then I come to, I don't know, maybe around here. And I click, hold the mouse down, and drag until I can get that shape to more or less lay on the shape of my turkey's head, that area of the head, something like that. Okay? Can you see what I did here? And can you see how I more or less laid it down on his head? Can you see it? Now,
Yep.
I'm going to show you. Go ahead.
That's too cool.
Yeah. So now I want to show you how to make this really easy. In order for me to make this really easy, what I like to do is see how these lines are extended. These are my control arms. What I like to do is I like to control my drawing. So I always come over top of this anchor point, and I want to show you that when I do that, can you see the little V appear behind my pen head? That's telling me I'm going to convert that anchor. And when I convert it, I'm going to convert it to a straight line segment. Watch when I click that anchor point. Did you see the control handle retract in? That's what you're looking for. So now when I come over here and I click again over here, I can drag and place that right where I want it on his back. And now I'm going to do the same thing. Come over here and I'm going to click on that point. And then I'm going to move to my next point, click, hold, and drag, and then retract it, and then come all the way over here. See, here's the thing I want you to understand. I've done this. If I've done it once, I've done it 1,000 times. So it's really fairly simple for me to do. You guys will have more trouble with it because I guarantee you there's probably not one of you that has done this before. So it is not going to be as easy for you to do as it is for me to do. But all I can say to you is that if you want, take a look at this, come back and look at this video and watch how I do it. And as a matter of fact, when you go into my discussion, you'll see that I have in there a link to a document where I demonstrate just this. And you can watch that as well. Click, hold, and drag. Now I'm really running out of time here, so I'm going to try to move quickly. Click, and then just come down, and that's a straight line. So I can come over here and click and drag, and then I'm going to click that point and come over here and click and drag just a bit, and then click again, and maybe just come right down to here. And I'm moving a little bit quicker, so click and hold and drag. And what I'm doing, and this is important, I am going around this thing in one shot. If you don't do this in one shot, it's not going to work for you. There, and I'm just going to continue coming around and finding where I want to go to draw. There it is, right about there is enough. Click, again, come over to here. I'm getting areas that I think I'd have no trouble drawing. That's the key to this. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click, lay that way. You just gotta do this. You just gotta play with it. You'll see. You'll probably have trouble doing it a little bit at first, but you'll get it. Click and come up, and I'm gonna drag and click again, and then come over to here. Everybody see what I'm doing? Make sense?
Yep.
Okay.
You make it look so easy.
Well, yes.
I agree. You make it look too easy.
I
I just got done telling you I have done this kind of thing 1,000 times. So for me, it is fairly easy. I don't expect it's going to be so easy for you, but don't let it bother you. Just go in and work on it. We're really running out of time, so I'm just going to do a little bit more, and then I'm going to end. Does anybody think they're not understanding what I'm doing? Because, I mean, again, I'm running out of time here.
Nope, I got it. I just need to know where we download the lessons.
You download them. You download them under assignments.
Okay.
Assignments. Click, and then I'm going to come in. Little bit.
What happens if you need help and you can go to the tutoring center or what?
You can do one of two things. You can either talk to the tutor. I haven't received our tutor instructions yet. There's instructions that I will be getting about our tutor. I will put that into the announcements as soon as I get it. If you really have a problem, call me. Call me. Okay?
That works.
Okay. So does everybody think they understand this? Let me show you what this looks like. I'm going to click and I'm going to drag that up. Can you see how that is one? continuous piece. And when I click on it, watch, I move, the whole thing moves. That's the key. You want it to be one continuous piece. Now, I just want to show you something. Since I've done this, if I wanted to start this again, what I'd have to do is I'd have to click on the pen tool. Well, let me actually put it back. Hold on. And I'll show you what I'd have to do. It's just important for you to understand. So now, oops, Control Z. Okay, so now I've deselected this thing. There it is. In order for me to continue working on this, I'd have to come over here and get my pen tool again. I'd have to go back to where I was, the last place that I placed this, and click. So now what I've done is I've actually attached my point back to where I was last working. And now I can continue going around. So if for some reason you get stopped, like I just did, and I did it to show you, I can come in here now and I can literally continue my work. Okay? Now watch this. When I deselect this thing and I click and move, can you see that since I clicked on that and added the point to my continuing line, can you see how that now is part of that line and I'm continuing? Does that make sense to you what I'm saying? This has got to be one piece. You must get this in one piece in order for this to work. Everybody got that?
Yep.
Okay. So that's it. Now, here's the thing. Since I'm not going to be seeing you, after you get done with this, all you have to do is two things. Go to the window menu, and you're going to go to links. And you're going to, in the links, see where it says Turkey 1 JPEG. Now, I'm assuming that you're working with the Turkey piece of art. I am going to click on that. I am going to come up here, and I'm going to go Embed Image. See it? Right there. Yep. Embed Image. The image is locked on a lock layer. Okay, so I have to unlock the layer first. Okay, let me unlock the layer. Okay, now I click on it. I go Embed Image. Now the image is embedded. The icon changes. That is an embedded image. Okay? But this isn't really that important. I just want to show you how to do it because it is kind of important, and you will have to do this in other exercises. But here's what I want you to do. When you get done with this thing, I want you to send it to me. I want you to go File, Save As, and I'm going to save mine on my desktop, and I'm going to call it my name. So you're going to put your name, Bill, S-W-E-E-N-E-Y, Bill Sweeney _ trace, and you're going to save as type Adobe PDF. And then I'm going to hit Save. And it's going to come up with Illustrator default, and then hit Save PDF. And that's it. Watch this. When I come down here, there it is, Bill Sweeney trace. And that is what you will be sending me. That is what you will be sending me, Bill Sweeney trace, with your name on it. Any questions about that at all?
Nope, but we can do the turkey or the guy, right? Or the man?
Yes. And
okay.
So this week what I expect from you, aside from your discussion, will be your turkey or your man, I don't care which, and then you're going to do your pen exercises. And if you have any troubles or if you have any problems downloading anything, you get in touch with me, okay?
Okay.
And that's it. I'm going to end recording.